Hi folks, welcome to Edge Parts and Performance Methanol Madness. Now if you're up in the North Island, the weather's not too kind to you at the moment, but we'll talk about that a little later on. AJ, welcome to the show, mate. We've had a good break from the sprint car title. You must be feeling a bit better.
Oh, slowly but surely we're getting there, Craig, but great to be back on the show.
And joining the show again, of course, is Louise Smith. Louise, how are you feeling? You've had a week off. It feels a bit odd not to have Speedway.
It's very odd. There's almost like a gap in the calendar. It's very strange for this time of the year, but it's nice to have a wee break, but I am looking forward to getting back to it.
Well, the next meeting coming up is the 25th of February at Ruapuna Speedway. We'll talk about that in a moment or two, but AJ, these weather worries up in the North Island are causing a few issues, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, and you know, it's hard to see anything of any real substance happening up there for a number of weeks, and probably my concern is that Speedway is an industry. Yep. And you know, it flows in all sorts of directions. You know, you've got the guy that sells the pies and the t-shirts, you've got the tracks, you've got the sponsors, you've got the teams, you've got the promoters or clubs and so on. You've got repairs that have got to be made from a lot of this flooding and so on. And you know, it's going to be very damaging to the Speedway industry. Absolutely, and
we already know that Western Springs looks like it's going to cancel its whole season this year, which is going to be devastating for the open wheel classes. And we'll talk about this a little later in the program and just see where we think most these open wheel classes might end up. Certainly a few tracks around the North Island, but with the weather the way it is, it's certainly causing all sorts of carnage. I made note just here, AJ, the North Island midgets were cancelled or certainly rescheduled. New Zealand mini sprints in Palmerston North look like they're under doubt now. They're supposed to be racing on the 18th of February. That may be cancelled. The North Island TQ champs in Gisborne, well, we've seen the weather reports in Gisborne. You wouldn't race anything around a speedway track. And the North Island sprint cars at Bay Park, maybe they might get away with their meeting, which is coming up on the 18th of February.
Yeah, they've dodged a little bit of a bullet over there. It seems as though, you know, Tauronga's copped it, the Mount hasn't, or vice versa sort of thing. The midgets were scheduled for Western Springs. That's been placed across town and Onehunga. It's pretty wet right across that part of the country, so only time will tell, but boy, you'd have to be one hell of an optimist to think that there's going to be much going on.
So who'd want to be a promoter in Speedway at the moment with all these weather conditions that are completely out of your control? Well, look, to get the show started, folks, it's Crash of the Week, and this goes right back to Sprint Car title night, and this was second night at Ruapuna, and we can see here, AJ, Stephen Taylor and Cole Wood going hammer and tongs for a number of laps, and you can see Cole putting another slide job on Stephen Taylor, but it was Cole Woods that really got out of shape here and really missed his mark, and he went very wide here. And take us through this.
Yeah, he just got out of the racing line, didn't he? You could see in the earlier part of that lap where the track was very wide, but coming off of turn 4, the racing strip is very, very narrow, and right at this point, Cole Wood, he's in no man's land. The car gets a bit of bite up the wall, and that's a very hard tumble.
Yeah, it happened to be the very last lap, so there was a real bit of desperation. We might get one more look at this, and it was Max Guilford that was behind Cole Wood, and I know what was happening. Cole was trying to save that very valuable place to get second. He knows he's in trouble here, and in a desperate attempt to keep the forward traction going, he really gives it some, and it was just the wrong time. And just on the nose there, that was the hard part of that landing there, and certainly looking at the damage that Cole had on that car, it was a real mess. A very difficult situation for the Wood Racing team, and Cole having to take that car all the way back to the North Island in multiple pieces. Well, time to move on to the Pro Ben preview of the week, and of course that's our upcoming meeting at Ruapuna on the 25th of February. The big feature on that night will be the South Island Midget Car Championship. AJ, of course, many people that know this event will remember Dave Kerr taking it out multiple times. It might have been 7, possibly even 8 times, but no Dave Kerr there this week. How's it all playing out for you?
Well, I think probably the biggest thing that's happened in the last couple of days is Mitch Osborne from up north. He was so impressive when he came down for the BT for Mates last year, and he's entered it. And so, you know, there's the dark horse for it. I think locally things are very, very close and very, very tight. Jack Lowe, you know, he started off the season probably having more laps than anyone else, but with the situation up north, that's died off. I think it's very, very open. Any one of a number of drivers can really put their flag in the sand on this. I think sentimental favourite for a lot of us will be Glenn Jury. If Glenn can start getting those big sliders going, we're going to be in for a whale of a show.
Yeah, well, we haven't focused on midgets for a while with all the sprint car racing, but it is one of the most exciting classes you'll see around at Ruapuna. Louise, you've always enjoyed the midgets. What are some of your selections, or what are you watching out for?
I'm really looking forward to this one. I think it's one of the bigger fields that we've seen for the midgets down here this season, so I think it'll be really interesting to kind of see who can come out on top of this one. But I definitely think that it'd be cool to see Sam McKenna get another win. I think that he'd be really gunning for that. But then we've also got Glenn Jury, Nathan Wilkie, Liam McCoubre, all of the top guys that we've seen competing all season long.
Yeah, we might talk about some of those favourites in a moment, but just to pick up your point, AJ, Mitch Osborne, yes, coming all the way down from Auckland. Of course, that rule change recently said that you could actually compete in different island titles. So, yeah, Mitch is a real flyer, and I remember watching him over Christmas time. He was really gassing it up with some of the good guys, and he's certainly not afraid of it. Well, look, we might just go through runner by runner here, and Sam McKenna, he'll be the first one we'll look at. He did have a great result at Ruapuna on a club night there, got a feature race under his belt, and got a fair bit of confidence.
Yeah, he's certainly got some real talent there. I do think the South Island Championship may be just out of his reach right now. Like he's had a little bit of a convoluted sort of season, and he's either been good or had some issues, but he'll be there or thereabouts. All he's got to do is finish.
Yeah, true. Well, with a underpowered car, Sam will really be sweating on a dry, slick track so he can get the horsepower down on the ground for him. Louise, I might bring you in here. Tom Lumsden, we haven't seen much of this year. He's got this new engine that everybody talks about, and he has showed it to us a couple of times at the track. It's got plenty of horsepower, and every time I've spoken to Tom, he just couldn't get the handling of the new chassis sorted out. But Tom's a very good driver, and he's probably one of our best drivers last year, I would say. What do you think of his chances?
I think he's got good chances. I think that he's a crowd favourite, and one that we've really been missing him this season out of the field, so I think it'll be really cool to see him come back and kind of see if he can have his issues sorted out and get it done. Would be really cool.
Well, the next driver we'll look at is Liam McCoubre, and I would say he's our most experienced midget car driver now, not because of his years, but because of what he's got behind him, which is the Selwyn Everett Motorsport team. And Selwyn Everett is a past South Island champion. I think he might have been a sprint car champion as well, if I remember rightly. So they've got a powerhouse of talent in behind Liam, and Liam being a very good driver, AJ, he'd be a very, very big chance of taking this out.
Yeah, don't underestimate the Everett factor on this one, and also that Liam had such a good run when he basically got into the seat very, very late in the piece racing for a North Island team.
Yeah, exactly, and that was a chance drive up in the North Island, wasn't it? A good mate of his, I just can't remember his name. I think it was McHugh was his last name. But anyway, Liam did jump into that car, and he ended up racing against all those Yanks and Michael Pickens, and he was leading a race at Waikaraka Park, and he looked really strong doing it, so we know he's very capable. Louise, Scott Miller, we know when we think about Scott Miller, we just think of that grouse-sounding V4 that he drives around on the Chev V4, and Scotty's a journeyman at Speedway, but he's been around for a number of years.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be a favourite for some of those old timers. I think it would be nice to see him kind of finishing up the front a little bit, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what Scott can pull out. Next
driver to look at, Glenn Jury. Well, we love watching the Access Man car going around. He's the guy that's most capable of pulling off the most spectacular slide jobs you'll ever see. He's a real showman, isn't he, AJ? He's got a few years under his belt now, but he's going as quick as he's ever gone.
Yeah, the old dog still knows how to bark pretty loud, doesn't he?
Nathan Wilkie from Nelson. Louise, you know a wee bit about Nathan. He's just a young gun. Of course, he's had some pretty good results. He's got a S-Slinger motor, so he's certainly got the power to be a real force. What are your thoughts on Nathan?
I think we've seen some really good showings out of Nathan this season, and I'd like to see him continue that and just be a little bit more consistent. So I think he's got a shot, to be fair. I think he does, yeah.
Yeah, no, I know he is registered to Nelson, but he drives all the way out from Dunedin. It's an unusual situation. Jamie Brown, another Nelsonian, AJ. Jamie's a good peddler, and he's got a good motor as well.
Yeah, they've certainly upgraded things, and he's very, very capable, and he's going to be there or thereabouts, I think. Give this guy a little bit of a break, and he'll be hard to peg back.
Absolutely. Jay Chadwick, 98C, another favourite son of midget car racing at Ruapuna. Perhaps the Chadwicks have been the most unlucky midget car family you could ever imagine. They have just had problem after problem after problem. But the John Bull special car going around, it's a great looking car, and Jay's very capable if he can just get the reliability of that car going. Louise, Jay Chadwick, he'd be a favourite of yours, wouldn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of bad luck that's happened to that team, as you pointed out, Craig. So I think having some luck on their side would really help them out this week.
Paul Denson in the Denko. Well, we know the Denko is good for about 3 or 4 laps, and Paul, you won't mind me saying that, mate. You've had all sorts of reliability problems, but that thing has got some horsepower, man. It is competitive with those Esslinger motors when you put your foot up it, and we hope that things go well for you on Saturday night. We'll move quickly on to Mitch Hill. Mitch has been a great driver, AJ. Probably had his best year of midget car racing, I would say, last season or maybe the season before. He really come on strong. Haven't seen much of him this year, but hopefully he can put on a good performance.
Yeah, I really like the way that Mitch races. Started off in stock cars and then based himself, even though living in Christchurch, based his midget racing up in Stratford. He was with a team up there, then bought the deal back here, and if they get some real consistency, he's another one. He's probably a little bit more than a dark horse, probably paying about $750 for TAB, I'd say.
Absolutely. And a shout out to Mitch's dad. Mitch's dad is his crewman, and he flies down from the North Island every meeting just to help his boy out. Great to see him in the pits there. We've got Mark Morris registered here, but we're not sure if he's actually going to be in a midget. That might just be a typo there in the registrations. If he's there, he's a good peddler. Ben Morgan, hey, he won the feature race at Ruapuna the other day, AJ, and he'd be feeling pretty confident, I'd imagine.
Yeah, he's young and he's got that sort of burning desire and that. So, you get me to put the odds on him, he's probably paying about $3.
Good stuff. And lastly, Jeremy Webb, one of our most experienced midget car drivers, one of the very few guys from Ruapuna to go to the Chili Bowl and win a race. Louise, he's got to be a great chance.
I think a lot of people focus so much on Jeremy's fantastic TQ career that his midgets kind of get forgotten about. But yeah, as you say, going to the Chili Bowl just gives them so much more experience over a lot of these guys. And of course, winning the Pickens 54 race just recently too, I think that he does have a good shot.
Yeah, he's certainly got a fair bit of wisdom when it comes to speedway racing these days, and so 14 races competing for the South Island Midget Car Championship, brought to us by the Springston Hotel, good sponsors for the Racecourse Hotel and Motor Lodge Ruapuna Speedway. Another event that's happening at the track, AJ, just a undercard really, the TQ20. Tell us about that format.
Yeah, the TQ20 is just another good incentivised race for the TQ guys. The leader of every lap gets a pocket full of cash, and I'm not sure how they're lining the field up, but what I'd like to see is that it's highest points from the back from the qualifying or something like that, and give some of the lesser drivers a real opportunity to get some confidence boosting prize money and lead some laps as well.
Absolutely. So just to sum that up, every lap that you lead in the the TQ20, you'll get some cash, and there'll be some prize money for first, second and third. It's a good race, and like AJ was saying, if we can get the fastest guys off the back, which is what they normally do, it's a pretty exciting race. Well, look, folks, after the break, we're going to catch up with the promoter of the BT Race for Mates and see what she has to say about an upcoming race happening at Ruapuna. Triple X chassis are now in stock at Edge Parts and Performance. These outstanding sprint car chassis are winners with the World of Outlaws, proven in Pennsylvania, and raced on the bull rings of New Zealand. Edge Parts and Performance, proud stockists of racer-inspired, race-proven Triple X chassis and race components. The team at Edge Parts and Performance have got safety covered. They're proud stockists of Simpson safety products, helmets, head and neck restraints, harnesses, racing suits, gloves, shoes and more. Simpson safety products provide an unparalleled level of comfort, performance and protection. Come and check out their new range of Simpson suits, lightweight 2-layer SFI approved suits that offers flexibility and functionality all in one. They've also got the Red Devil carbon fibre lightweight racing helmet in stock. Welcome back to Edge Parts and Performance. Methanol madness, and Boothie's got all those parts going out, replacing all the bits that all the sprint car guys broke over the last few weeks, and certainly there was some pretty big racing moments at Ruapuna. Well, look, focus at Ruapuna now shifts towards midget car racing. We've already spoken about the South Island midget car title, and joining us on the show is Amy Worthington. Amy, you've put together a race called the BT Race for Mates. This is a race that's in honour of Bryce Townsend. I wonder if you could just explain to us what this race is about.
Yeah, so I met with the Townsend family about a year ago, and we had the idea to create an event that would encourage competitors to get together, mix and mingle, go racing, and just look after themselves and others both on and off the track.
Yeah, and we know that Bryce Townsend actually did take his own life. A very sad situation for everybody involved. And just a reminder to most of us, Bryce was one of those good guys at Speedway that you would never have picked that up. And I know what's happening with the BT Race for Mates. It's really to create some awareness about looking after your mates when it comes to Speedway racing. But just to pick up on your point, Amy, yes, he was a very traditional Speedway racer, was Bryce. He'd been around for a long, long time. He's actually a very successful racer. He won many titles, and he was one of those guys that actually used to give his time and effort to anybody that was interested in Speedway racing. Certainly very well loved around the community, and certainly had a lot to offer.
Yeah, definitely. He was Uncle Bryce to me. I grew up with him all my life, obviously one of Dad's close friends. So yeah, he's definitely helped a lot of people out in the Speedway community, done a lot of great things for a lot of people.
Well, you've done the hard work by promoting this race, and we experienced it down at Ruapuna last year. Of course, it was under COVID conditions. Were you happy with the outcome, and did it do what you would hope it would do?
Yeah, for like the inaugural event, we were really happy. The uptake from competitors, I think we had about 15 competitors down from the North Island to join your South Island contingent. Yeah, the uptake was great. We managed to raise some money for the Mental Health Foundation, which was always a goal. Yeah, it was a great weekend had by all, I think.
So Bryce Townsend was really well respected within the Speedway community.
He did a lot for a lot of people on and off the track. Just a guy that would always say hello in the pits and keep an eye out for you.
Well, it's certainly a very good cause, and we hope that we can make some money with your race, which is coming to Ruapuna shortly. Can you tell us who the inaugural winner of the BT Race for Mates was?
Yeah, that was Michael Pickens. I think he picked up his 200th feature win that night too. That
was a big night. We were racing under COVID, as we expressed before, but I remember there was a heck of a lot of people on the live stream, almost 800 people watching in. So certainly good to get the coverage for the event. Amy, if it goes well for you, what's your plan with this race, and what would be a successful outcome for you? Having that prestigious event that everyone wants to be a part of would be the initial goal, but I think I'm looking big long term. Everyone does, and maybe take it across the country, make it a series. We'll just see how that plays out. Well, I'll tell you what, I think you've got the vital ingredient, which is a name that people do recognise and remember, and certainly with all the help that Bryce was giving to everybody at Ruapuna and other tracks, I think you've got a great chance of that becoming very successful in the future. We might just get you to hold there for a moment, Amy. Bryce Townsend, what's your thoughts of him as a driver?
I knew Bryce very, very well, and he was one of those guys, you mentioned earlier, a traditional sort of racer. And I do think that the BT Race for Mates probably heads down the path of how Bryce would have felt about things, because he always had a real soft spot for Christchurch, raced his TQ down here a lot, raced midgets down here a lot, even put in a couple of nights in sprint cars, and he hated the damn things. But, like what we saw with the BT Race for Mates last year, was like this. It was almost a support package for midget car racing in the South Island arriving. But we had the big names, we had Mosen and Pickens and so on. But we also had a bunch of the younger guys, and Bryce was always really keen on making the younger guys experience racing and travel, and he was big for people just going and having a good time. It was like the gathering of the clan, and I absolutely imagine that Bryce Townsend would approve of this 150%.
Good stuff. Well, Amy, I'll come back to you in a second, but I remember Jack Lowe really showed how good a driver he was when the BT for Mates weekend was on. I think he got second in the Classic, but he put some great performances in on the BT Race for Mates, and certainly surprised a few. I think he put a move on Mosen, and he almost took out Pickens to get to the lead at one stage.
Yeah, and again, another byproduct of that weekend of racing last year was that even though the Seamount team they had an awareness of Jack Lowe and they'd been watching from a distance, that this proved to them that he was worthy of them putting into a car up there. And of course this time we've got the BT on the Friday night and the Seamount New Zealand Grand Prix on the Saturday night. So the teams have got a lot to come down here for.
Yeah, exactly. Well, look, if you want to get to the BT Race for Mates, it's on the 17th of March. I believe it is at Ruapuna, or the Friday of that weekend. Amy, who can we expect as drivers that might come down from the North Island? Do you have any confirmed entries at this stage?
Yeah, so at this stage we've got former national champion Michael Pickens and also former national champion Peter Honeybell. We've also got a couple of younger second generation drivers in Amy Worthington and Mitch Fabish. Nice. I believe both their parents raced with Bryce themselves as well, so that's added another layer to this event, makes it a little bit more special. And then obviously we've got your local contingent, which consists of Jack Lowe, Liam McCoubrey and Ben Morgan, who have all looked really good this year.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great celebration of midget car racing. So that's Amy Worthington, folks. She's promoting the BT Race for Mates. Amy, we want to hold you just for a few more minutes. And given that you're a North Islander now and certainly you're experiencing all this terrible weather, what's the state of play with racing up in the North Island? What seems to be happening? And it's virtually impossible to get a race meeting going at the moment.
Yeah, unfortunately we had 3 weekends scheduled at Western Springs last weekend, this weekend and the following weekend. They were underwater about a week ago, and then we've had a lot more rain recently, so unfortunately the stadium is out of action for the rest of the season. The promotions team from Western Springs have been able to relocate the North Island Midget title and the TQ Grand Prix, I think it is, to Waihoraka Park this weekend, so that gives us some racing. And then I don't think we're going to be short of racing. There's a lot of tracks who have put their hands up to run shows throughout the North Island. I think Stratford's picked up around. Gisborne, hopefully they're okay after all this weather. They're actually pretty interested in getting midgets there. I don't think midgets have been there for about 17 years, so That'll be cool if we can get them back there.
Well, I suppose the byproduct of all this is that you won't be restricted to Western Springs, which has always been the home of sprint cars and midget car racing. Now that it's gone, it's really going to throw everything up in the air, and I'm really curious to get your thoughts on this. Where do you think the home of open wheel racing will be now? I think it's fair to say that Western Springs won't be racing for the rest of the season. It's unlikely they're going to get back next year, which leaves an enormous hole for open wheel races.
I really hope we get back there next year. Obviously, the prestige of racing at Western Springs, it's just the atmosphere, it's great. Bay Park has come a long way, and I think they've definitely got something going for them to produce some really good racing for the midgets. I think they've got a Bay 51 coming up, which is meant to be New Zealand's longest midget race, and a couple of other midget meetings there. So fingers crossed, the weather plays ball.
Yeah, well, look, it's not all doom and gloom. As you say, these tracks are opening up their doors and wanting to have midget car racing. AJ, your thoughts of North Island open wheel racing at the moment? It's from afar, it looks like it's in disarray, but Amy's saying that there's plenty of places that want to take these cars.
Yeah, and like they've always had that that opportunity with the Keys of the world and Stratford and so on that do lend themselves to some really good racing. And let's also not lose sight of the fact New Zealand Midget Car Championships in Christchurch next year, so we got a little bit of a vested interest in making sure that things keep on going.
Absolutely. Well, look, thanks for joining the show there, Amy. Good to get your thoughts on the BT Race for Mates and certainly what's happening in the open wheel racing in the North Island. We feel for you guys. That weather is just absolutely awful, and we know being a club run deal down here for Ruapuna, any rainouts cause enormous problems, financial, getting your staff motivation, driver motivations. It's just not easy. So thanks again for joining us. AJ, there was plenty of people at the New Zealand Sprint Car title if we just go back in time a little, and I caught up with Roger Gleeson and a number of others. Did you manage to catch up with many people?
Yeah, I caught up with Alan Wakeling, an old mate of mine, and he always rated Ruapuna, loved racing there, and he was just over the moon with how the Nationals went and actually how the stadium itself has evolved. Waco hasn't been down for several years. Old Alec McDonald, he was one of the big stars back there in the late 70s, and that always good to see AJ there. And the Nationals actually brought a lot of them out there. Phil Game, I didn't get to see Phil, but he raced a lot for us way back, 20 odd years ago, and he was a bit of a gun. And of course, you mentioned Roger Gleeson. He was just so overwhelmed with the weekend.
He really was, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And he had his family there, and they were reminiscing about their big title in '84, and so many people wanted to shake his hand, and it was a big moment because Roger's getting on a little bit now. His health's not so good at the moment, although it's just sciatic pain apparently, but he was limping through the pits, but every second person wanted to shake his hand.
Yeah, and I think what that really shows is that there was a time where Speedway produced all these heroes, and unfortunately there's been a bit of a lull in that sort of thing. But the 80s was a real heyday. The late 70s and the 80s, boy, it was big. And I think we're heading back down that path now. So 20 years time, when the Matt Honeywell's and that hobbling down pit row, everyone's going to be shaking their hand.
Yeah, well, it was certainly a memorable weekend of sprint car racing at the track. And another international to come to Ruapuna Speedway was Peter Murphy. For those that don't know Peter, he was a ex-New Zealand sprint car champion. He's from Australia, and he's now the promoter of Skagit Raceway. We caught up with Peter on sprint car title night. Well, folks, there's some pretty famous people floating around the pits here at Ruapuna tonight, and I've run into Peter Murphy. And Peter, you're pretty famous for being an ex-New Zealand champion here. We know you come from Australia, but now you're a promoter at Skagit Speedway. Tell us about how that all come about.
Well, once I had my crash, I couldn't race anymore. I had to figure out something else to do, and I wasn't done with the racing deal that we have. So we had the opportunity to be a promoter at Hanford in California, and it's Skagit Speedway in Washington. So it's just something I needed to do. So I did.
Well, a lot of us have watched the promotional stuff on YouTube, and we see how you've turned that place around. That was quite a mammoth challenge for you to take on. How did it all play out for you?
It's basically the people you surround yourself with. As you know, they can help you or hurt you, but we are surrounded by good people at both tracks. The partnership we have at Skagit, Washington is with Kevin Rudin and John Hager. We're just a really good team, and we're all racing people, so we really understand. We think we understand what we need to be, if you know what I mean. Opinions vary on that even, so but it is what it is. As long as you have a goal and you're just trying to be better for the sport, I think you're going in the right direction.
Well, we've noticed some of your events are carrying as many as 10, 12, possibly even 15,000 people there. It's really impressive to watch. And how much work goes into creating a atmosphere like that so guys want to turn up and the crowd want to be there?
You think it's just about money for the purses and stuff like that, which obviously we have really good purses for Dirt Cup. I paid $50,000 to win last year, and it was $1,000 to lead a lap. So I think like Tyler Courtney won it, and he walked out there with almost $75,000. So it was a big thing, but I think we pay well down the line. It was $1,000 a start, stuff like that. But it just going back in time a little bit to do what it was in the past. How they inverted the heats a little bit. Your qualifiers on points, and sometimes you go back to come forward and change it to suit what's going on today, you know, which is, as you know, we have to adapt ourselves to what's going on in the world today if we want to be successful in what we're doing. So that's just how we have to be.
Yeah, we certainly look at things at Ruapuna here as being the last old school entertainment venue. It's very difficult to get close to car racing these days, and it's exciting by definition because you can be so close to a sprint car going around.
Yeah, it is, and I mean, you said the right word right then. We're not about putting on a race, and up there, we don't put on a race, we put on an event, because we are in the entertainment business, and that's what we have to remember. We've got to entertain so those people come in and then they watch what we're trying to put on here. So it's, you know, with Speedway, after the races, they can come in, like, it doesn't cost them nothing, they can rub shoulders with the drivers and stuff like that. It's just a different thing than most sports these days, you know. So I think we have to follow what other sports do in a lot of ways, but then we've got to keep it old school, real, where we are one-on-one with the people, and it's just a good thing, I think. So
the thing I've noticed about American racing is it has old school conservative values, certainly national anthems, and a number of traditions get played out on the night. There's a prayer before the race and stuff, and certainly that seems to be what's missing here in New Zealand at the moment, and there's a focus on simply making money, which is often the wrong way to do it.
It is, but see, here's the thing, I believe, I look at, because I'm saying not worldly travel, but I've raced in America, I've raced here in New Zealand, I've raced in Australia, and I believe in Australia and New Zealand we understand that we are trying to entertain the people, more so than not hanging anything on the Americans, but we try to entertain the people here and try and do it in such a way that it's different than over there. I think we need to combine the two of, you know, their traditional deals and then what we do to be the entertainer and get it done on a timely manner and all that kind of stuff. So just like this, you've been doing interviews like this, these are things that we need to constantly be giving people stuff that they need to know, updates and just content of what's going on, you know. So it sounds like it's pretty simple, but it's not. Like it's a lot of things get overlooked, and even when you think you got it all covered, then you'll realize, like, you missed something, and someone will point it out for you, you know, obviously. So
we're both carrying a few years on us now, mate. How many years you got left in the promotion side of things, and what's the new exciting thing that you're working on at the moment?
I don't know. Gosh, I'm 55 now, so yeah, I don't know, another 5 years, I don't know. Until I can't handle people yelling at me, or, you know, or I like them, I don't know. It just as it plays out. The only big thing I've got going now, we've been trying to really bring 410s back on the West Coast in America, California, Oregon and Washington. They seem to be struggling a little bit, and I think it's just because no one's helping their deal a little bit. That's my goal. I was a 410 person. I love 410s, and between having Hanford down in the middle of California and having Skagit up there, we're working with as many promoters as we can to get all the rules the same as best we can, and even that's not a simple task, but you think it should be all the same, but everyone wanders off on their own deal every now and again. But if we can become one sort of a deal and make it a little bit more straightforward, then again, we can make it simple, then it'll grow. So it just needs help. That's all.
I think you're right, and most of our viewers don't realise there are 305s, 360s, 410s, Crown cars.
There's so many. So.
Yeah, well, look, Peter, it's really great to catch up with you, man, and look, at some stage we'd love to get over to America and come and look at your outfit, and certainly that Dirt Cup and the Summer Nationals for your 360s is pretty exciting stuff. I tell you what's happening on the social media side of things, which is really good. People like Tanner Holmes are coming on board, and man, are they helping promote Speedway these days.
It's good, and see how old he is. He's with the younger generation, you know. They're on TikTok, they're on this, like, this is what we need to do. We can't just do what we've done in the past and think we're going to make a difference. We've got to change. It's unfortunate, but we've got to adapt to what's going on in the world. With everything's on your phone now. Everyone wants instant gratification, so we've got to put on better shows, you know. Like, we just got to we've got to entertain better. We as promoters have to do a better job.
Yep.
So it's just a matter of trying to figure out how to do it.
Well, I think lastly, the thing that Ruapuna's learned is that some of these young talents that are coming over from America can really expose our drivers. Buddy Cofield, what a sensation. And even this young kid, Joel Myers Jr., who's not quite a Buddy Cofield at the moment, certainly got a chance of winning. What did you make of his racing last night, and do you think he's got a chance?
Yeah, I know he's definitely got a chance. He's young, he's excitable, he has no fear. Elbows are up all the time. Obviously, he's from California, and that's obviously where I live more often than not. And I've seen him run down there, and he's very good down there too. Cream comes to the top pretty easily. He's good, and also with Jonathan, but this, got Michael Pickens in the 71 car, and the Dean Brindle. Like, it's just so many of you've got talent here too. The difference between the talent you have here and the talent that came over here is they race all the time. Yeah. Unfortunate, like for the New Zealand guys, they don't get to race as much as what they do. So, even when I was racing, I'd race all year long, then I'd come here, and I'm just more adaptive and second nature everything. So there's the biggest difference is just the laps. You have talent here, believe me. There's a lot of talented drivers here, young drivers, and if they had the opportunity to go to the States, they should. So.
Look, folks, that's Peter Murphy. He was a fast, hard charger when he was going pretty good, and an ex-New Zealand champion as well. Peter, thanks for spending time with us, mate. Always good to get your insights on Skagit, and we'll be watching on the YouTube, mate, seeing your next big event. Yeah,
no worries. Thanks for having us, and I just want to say this facility you have here is a first class. I loved it. Last night your crowd was awesome. Your track curator, he had some things he had to deal with, like no one understands the wind that affects everything he does, and the heat yesterday. So he did a fantastic job yesterday. Hats off to him and his guys out there too. But your whole team did a great job yesterday. So I'm just happy to be here. Very, very proud to be a part of it.
Good stuff. Peter Murphy joining us there on Methanol Madness, and we might catch up with him in a video interview in the future and just see how things are going for Skagit Speedway. Well, how good to catch up with Peter Murphy, certainly a guy that's making a big difference over in America with Skagit Speedway and some of the ideas that he's taking to the Americans. Well, look, folks, time for final thoughts, and I might kick this one off. For me, great to see Ruapuna Speedway stepping up. We've talked about this before. It's certainly becoming the entertainment venue that we all hoped it would a few years ago. And that sprint car title, which we've already talked about, was just simply amazing, and very difficult to top that for the rest of the season. But we do turn our attention to the midgets, as we've already spoken about, and there's some very good racing coming up at Ruapuna. And Louise, I'm certainly looking forward to it. What are some of your future thoughts, and what about the quarter midgets? How are they doing?
Yeah, I'm all for a break, but I'm definitely looking forward to getting back. So I think that the next meeting at Ruapuna is going to be a really good one. We're running the Best Pairs event for the quarter midgets, which is one that all of the kids really love to participate in. It gets 6 kids up on the podium, and it's an event that they actually all really look forward to, which is a lot of fun. And of course, the TQ20 is going to be a great one to watch as well.
Yeah, well, I used to be a little critical of the quarter midgets a few years ago because I just didn't think they were worth watching. But believe me, they are very much worth watching now because we see all our future champions coming out of that grade. And certainly the pairs format, which will be unique to the drivers this week, will be interesting for them. But certainly quarter midgets have their place in Speedway these days. AJ, some of your final thoughts, mate?
I think my final thought relates back to Peter Murphy's interview there. Look, it was actually quite humbling talking to Peter and how he felt Ruapuna was tracking. And I have some pretty good connections up there in Northern California and so on. And not only does he run Skagit, but he's also got an involvement in the track at Hanford. And he's a mover and a shaker, and I think what he's done is he's sort of grabbed the way that a lot of people perceive a night at the Speedway, a little like we have, and turned it into a night of entertainment. And I think you and I need to get over there and have a look at one of his tracks this winter.
I'll tell you what, AJ, if you put your hand in your wallet, I'll go with you. How's that? Well, look, folks, that's the end of the show. Lots to look out for at our next meeting, which is the 25th of February. And great to get Peter Murphy's thoughts on how Speedway should be promoted. But until next time, keep your foot up it.